And after a long-awaited season, we're back.
Yes,
Episode 30, boys. Episode 30.
Tom making his way back.
Tom making his way back. Tom's rambling around. He's looking for a sign. We're all live. It's the first time we've been here in 3 weeks. We forgot how to do it.
Yeah,
Um,
I thought he was gonna do the catwalk for a minute.
I can do the moonwalk, but
Right.
just to touch on the topic here. We've got this listed as customer service, dead or more vital than ever. Tom actually shot this into the group before we jumped on today. We do have a surprise guest next week. Today, as the boys are back in town, as you'd say. And this is what we're going to chat about, right? And then this might spiel into other things, but I think that if I'll start this train, get us down this rabbit hole. I think that honestly, everybody that's going to read the topic to this podcast is just going to know the answer. I think now it's the most important thing, period. Especially in my space. In any space ever, right? But especially in my space, in the marketing space, because it's so. HVAC space can even be considered the same, just because it's so tainted with, frankly, just shit companies, right, and shitty people. That I think it is more, and obviously with marketing, it's not as easy just going in and putting an HVAC system in. You will have months that are bad, and we've had plenty of months that are bad with clients where the clients stay because of this type of customer service they get and how they're conveyed information, how responsive we are and what we do and how we give a shit about what they actually have going on. There's companies spending $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a month, right? We work with one, which is we're more of like a third party vendor, but we work with one that spends $260,000 a month, right? If you don't have good communication, what the hell, you're not gonna hold clients to that level. But anyway, that's all. That's in terms of like how important it is for us. It's the most important. Just because it's nothing's guaranteed for us.
I happen to be getting some work done on my house right at the moment. And in Florida, it seems like the impression is contractors are the worst. They don't show up. I had some stucco that needs to be repaired. I reached out to 12 different contractors to give me a price to fix my home. And 4 called me, 2 didn't show up. And I ended up going with, one of the gentlemen. But it's like that kind of service, and even in the HVAC, the plumbing, the home improvement goods, is that you're almost guilty out of association. So customers are almost waiting
for sure
to not give them good service. They're, that's almost like what they're expecting as opposed to the positive side. And so for contractors,
low bar,
that they
100% low bar.
They do, and give that customer a good experience from you book the call, the people that's booking the call, the technician that's in the home, all of the things. It's so vitally important because it's so interrelated and connected. So it's imperative, and that you've heard the analogy that says do a good job and the person will tell 3 people. You do a bad job and they'll tell 15 or 20.
Shit.
And so if you're wanting to build a brand and you're going through you're using a company like Colton to do your marketing, and you're paying for these dollars and things like that, and then the next thing you know, you're your worst own enemy by you got the leads but you didn't handle them right, and you didn't close because you didn't do what you said you were going to do, or what the customer expected the experience to be. So it's imperative.
Well, and that's really kind of the point that dovetails really good into kind of what my point is, because we've been around 42 years and we still go through it to this day, and it's not really the fact of the company as a whole doesn't have a good customer service. We've been in the community, got good relationships, all that, but it can fall to anybody. And one of my big things definitely is the fact of looking at, you got a lot of the companies that they feel like they have all these problems with trying to generate leads and get more calls, and kind of like what you were just talking about. And then what they don't do is they don't go back and start looking at half the leads they lost and trying to figure out what the reason was. They're finding out that, hey, half the leads came into the office, somebody didn't get back to them when they said they were supposed to get back to them. Someone said, hey, just because someone says, hey, give me a call back, in 2 weeks, that's never followed up on. And we constantly run into this all the time. And I get that a lot of people got other things to do, but you just build systems and processes and put them in place. But we'll run into that every now and again to where we're catching leads. There's a point where a lot of people are trying to exhaust all the leads that they have, but there's also a point where people overlook these things just on bad customer service, and they could literally fix half their problems in a company that they're trying to do by just having attention to detail, having that good customer service. Like you said, showing up on time. When they call and say, "Hey, I want to talk to a manager," handling it with care. I just had a deal with an escalated call yesterday, and it had to do with the same thing. Called in, the CSR was super short with her. She didn't mean no ill by it, but the customer didn't like the way that was addressed. Now you're giving out credits, you're giving out revenue.
Yeah.
That starts to eat into your profit. And you do that 25, 30 times throughout the year. That's just a waste of money.
Correct.
That's needed. And then you talk about the leads, right? Then now you got leads that you're missing too, and that's not going out there. I'm pulling up a whole book of leads that I'm going through and I'm looking at, and I just did it this morning, and I'm finding 15, 20 leads in there that could have been converted or never converted because nobody followed up with them. Like, oh, went with somebody else because it took too long, right? Or
Yeah.
there's no response back to them. And I'm like, okay, well, this is money spent already. So again, another loss revenue there. So once you start getting bigger, things can slip through the cracks, but the one thing that should never slip through the cracks is definitely customer service, because a lot of that should be taken care of on the upfront. But
I think you touched on something too that was interesting. Because when you first started, I thought you were going to go in one direction and you went in another, which was great because it got my mind kind of thinking. Because you mentioned something just a second ago, something along the lines of like the company as a whole might have great customer service, but sometimes it just falls on like this one person that gives this veil of poor customer service. So I think that's hard too when you're getting larger. I mean, we're not even that large on my end. I think we have grown quite a bit this last year. I think we're at like 17 or 18 people now. But I've had situations where, just the way that the customer was addressed by in an email or whatever, and like you reread the email and it's like, you know who sent it and like what they meant by it. And sometimes like my team's pretty tight knit, so like I don't really have any like outliers that actually just maybe suck at what they do, right? But like in bigger companies you'll get those, right? They cheat their way into the job and whatever, and they're really not as good. But anyway, my point is
all the time. That's a whole nother topic.
Yeah. my point is like there's little things that can go wrong, and it just comes down to that one person, and then the company as a whole is like, we don't do this. Like, I'll give you a perfect example. We actually had I couldn't freaking believe it. We had a partner that came on in the Nevada and kind of in the Vegas market. And good dude, everything was fine. We went to go launch campaigns, and somewhere along the lines, this guy is also he very much understands like how to go in and look at his campaigns and see how they're doing, which is great. It's phenomenal. We have nothing to hide, right? It's awesome. And we launched campaigns, and somewhere along the lines, wires got crossed, and his campaign it spent like $100, but that's not the point. It was routed to the wrong landing page.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, holy shit. Like, I couldn't believe it. Like, my director of ops ran to him first, and then it ran to me because it went through customer service and then to him and then to me. And I'm like, how the hell did this happen? Right. And it just didn't make any sense. Right. So that was kind of a whole ordeal. And then what I ended up actually doing was like, we sent him the $100 because it charged his card, of course. So we sent him the $100. We're like, hey, I got on the phone with him, like, dude, this doesn't happen. I have no idea. Like, I literally don't know what happened here. I'm gonna try and figure it out. Blah 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 blah. And not even probably 2 weeks later, we had a tracking number attached that was his call rail number, but apparently his call rail had expired or something, so that number wasn't working.
Yep.
And it was these two things. These two things, once again, these are major problems if you're spending thousands of dollars. Thank God we caught this early. But the second problem was he caught it the second time, right?
Okay.
And this is the same client in like a 2-week span, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Right?
Exactly.
I'm talking to him on the phone, and I'm like, okay, man, like, I'm not gonna charge you a dime for this service this month. Like, not a thing. Like, this is on us. I'm like, I have no excuse. Like I told you last time, like I have no idea how this happened. We ended up figuring it out on the previous mix up, but keep in mind, it's like that one thing. And he's
Yeah.
like, well, I talked to my account manager and, she didn't really know or whatever. And he, that wasn't the best taste in his mouth or whatever. And obviously we made it right with the guy. And we're like, hey,
Yeah.
listen, I'm going to get this done. I'm going to show you how we work. We don't operate like this. I'm not going to charge you a dime, right? Like this, I just want to get you up and rolling here. And he's like, all right, great. I'd love to work with you for a long time, blah, 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 blah. Cool. Awesome. He's still with us, right?
Nice.
But it was just like, and I gave more of a situational thing versus like a one person example.
Yeah.
But like it'd be the same, like that was the same. It was like this one thing. I mean, that turned it into two, but it was like this one thing that really threw him off because it was the beginning of the relationship and maybe not how the company
Oh, absolutely.
acts as a whole, right?
Yeah.
But it had happened to happen to this guy, and the odds that it happened two things in 2 weeks was fucking
Yeah.
unbelievable. I couldn't believe it. But anyway, um, just goes to show that like things can fall through the cracks. So you got to make
Yeah.
sure that
Well, and not only on that, I mean, and I love how you touched on something specific because people run into these specific situations and how much it can start to snowball out of control. One big thing in the service space and customer service space is people with their memberships, right? Their tune-ups, their yearly checkups, their recurring services that we call it. And then a lot of companies push those off and and everything about the membership states priority, right? You're a
correct.
priority customer. But then
Yes.
they're the first person to get bumped on the schedule, or they're the first person because they say, "Oh, the tune-up really isn't as important as the emergency." So, I've gone into clients after clients, and I'm like, "Listen, that is not a good mindset to have." And if you're stating, "Hey, if you're a member with us, you get priority scheduling," and
Correct.
then all of a sudden this person's getting bumped 3 or 4 times, and I've seen it where customers will go ahead and cancel their membership. And I sat down with one owner one time because it kept happening, and I said, "Hey, listen, man," I said, "I'm going to tell you the way it is. One thing is these customers who signed a membership, they're with you long term. That's a long term customer. This person that had the emergency that just called you from an ad in the phone book, you have no clue they continue with you after this one service that you give to them. Why
For
would you
sure.
jeopardize a long term relationship for a
For
gamble?" I
sure.
said, you're rolling the dice. I said, so every approach you should have with the customer on if you're trying to bump for an emergency is a request. It's not a demand. And
Yeah.
that's where it really kind of started to change his thought. I said, if you talk to Miss Betty Smith, "Hey, Miss Betty Smith, we got the situation going on. I do have this other opening. Are you available for that day? And would that be okay?" And if she says, "No, I kind of would like to keep this one," absolutely move on to the next. And that's how
Yeah.
you should kind of handle that process. And then we had a situation literally just yesterday, the irate customer I had to deal with had a great technician out there. I fielded the call, talked to the lady. She said, "Your technician was phenomenal. You guys did an awesome job. We were out there for a clean and tune. Everything was perfect. He did his job." She says, "I loved your technician, love your company." She's like, "But I do not like the way that I felt like I was nothing when I called that office." I said, "Oh my gosh, what do you mean?" So I listened to the phone call, followed the breadcrumbs, and nothing was ill intended by it. But when the customer had no heat after our technician left, and instead of our protocol is if we are at someone's house and you got a water leak or no heat, the next call that they're done on, they need to circle back to that job and figure it out.
Yep.
Well, the I get where the mindset was for the CSR, right? And they're like, "Hey, listen, yeah, I'll go ahead and tell the technician he's going to give you a call," because she already knew in her head it's either a gas valve was left off or the furnace switch.
Yep.
It does happen quite frequently, unfortunately, but sometimes you get those technicians that are moving too quick, and they forget to do that last step, flick it back on
Correct.
before they leave the house, or turn the valve back on. So she calls the technician. She says, "Hey, listen, man, this happened. Please make sure you give Miss Betty Smith a call and let her know it's just your furnace switch. If she can't turn it on, like if she's not mobile and she can get down there and do it, tell her you'll come back and do it." Well, she put it on the technician. Technician never, like, he's busy, he's running calls. He
Correct.
never called that customer. Protocol is the office is to do that and just put it on the technician. They look at their schedule, they do the job. So it was that small little, hey, let me kind of circumvent the process
Yeah.
that caused this lady to now call in and say, "Hey, I love your tech. Everything was great. This customer had a perfect experience, except for that one moment where we
Correct.
could have fixed it within 10 seconds." Right. So, and she was pissed. Now, how we handled it afterwards, I said, "Listen, ma'am, I'm going to be here. We're not going to charge you for the call." I said, "If you need anything in the future, I'm also going to give you next tune-up is going to be free as well." And but that's the thing. Now we're losing revenue.
Correct.
We missed a 1-star review, thank God. But we also didn't get a 5-star review when we did have great service on it. So
Yep.
things like that can happen, but how you handle it from the get-go is you don't try to save face. You just sit there, you take it, you handle it head on, and then you make sure you have a resolution and a solution to it.
For sure.
And that's kind of the key. I think really a lot of companies are missing is they push it off or they put it to somebody else, and the whole, well, I told Bob to do it, or I told somebody that, well, if you're addressed with the situation, you should handle the situation, see it all the way through. That way 100% it got completed.
Right? I think another thing that you touched on too that's important to say is like to be mindful of as business owners is like it's easier to push people off when the money's already in your pocket, right?
Yeah.
When it's a a biannual truck roll or whatever, because they're on a maintenance agreement and it's like supposed to be priority, but then obviously they're easier to push because it's like, yeah, this is Susie, like she'll be fine. It's an annual roll, like we can do it next week, and then we can do it next week, and we can do it next week. And we even find that sometimes too with like I even find
Next
that when
week
my team
doesn't come. But
yeah, exactly. Like I even find that with my team, like lack of urgency. It's like, oh, so and so upgraded to an SEO program along with their paid ads program. It's like, okay, well, let's get the things that we need. Well, then it's 3 weeks later and we still don't have the things that we need because the customer is kind of sitting on their thumbs or doesn't know what they need to get. But it's fine. Like my team should be pushing. That's our goddamn job.
That's it.
Right?
Yep.
It's like if they're going to pay for it, yeah, they're already an existing customer. They're already paying, but they're wanting to pay us more to do another service. Get the shit done.
Yeah. Protocol is protocol, right?
Yeah,
and that's what I tell everybody.
100%. I think you touched on something good there because that's something that I even find myself having to like to remember to check on. It's like we need to get these things done, and it becomes harder. In my world, it's a little bit different because usually with additional service becomes like additional responsibility from the client for a very short amount of time because they need to get us access to things and do this and do that and do that, and they don't always love doing that. Like there's people that we're still sitting on for like weeks for certain video creative and stuff like that, and it's like this is unbelievable. Like, but at the same time, it's like they're still, and it's easy to say, well, they'll get it to it when they get to us. They're already paying for their program, like they know how it works, whatever. But it's like, no, let's be aggressive. Like, I'd rather lose a customer because they're so pissed that we're trying to get our job done and we won't leave them alone, which would obviously never happen. Like no real company or person in their right mind would get rid of us because of that. But I'd rather have them be upset because of that versus like, hey, like I was gonna do this, but like it never got done. Well, John, you needed to send us so and so.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't ever follow up with me. I didn't know, like, whatever. So,
and always liken it to like if you're in a 5-star restaurant, right? You hear that they got great reviews. You're in the restaurant, you get your appetizer, and then all of a sudden you get your main course, and you pay your bill, but you're gonna go and you're gonna hang out at the bar, right? And at that time, you're sitting there, and all of a sudden, now you're just left. Nobody's attending to you. Nobody's giving you drinks. It doesn't matter how good that waiter or waitress just did on their job when you were at the table, because it's always going to be that last impression, right? So if you're at the bar, nobody's tending to you, not getting any drinks, you're having to chase somebody down just to get it to you. And that bartender, now the whole organization and company in itself could have a 5-star rating. But because that one employee overlooked that, and even though you've been there, you've been existing, they got the money in the pocket already from your big check, whatever it may be.
Yep.
Now you're not worth a thing to them. You're missing out on revenue, like you're missing out on existing revenue or more revenue up front. And then you're also missing out on another good experience from a customer who, again, back to Tom's point, could go tell, 3 friends, right? Hey,
Correct.
Go to this restaurant. Hey, go to, Colton's marketing company, utilize them because since I've been with them, man, I've gotten white glove service the entire time. It doesn't matter, and hey, and this is the big thing. What's the biggest gripe about phone companies, right? You've been there forever and you never get any of the deals. All the deals go to the new customer. Like, what is that crap about? So that's the biggest, like, I can't stand it. And what do people do? They hop around to new phone companies, sell services to get the good deal when all these companies could keep their existing customers if they just offered, take care of the ones who have been with you the longest and not take care of the ones who are just coming in because my thing is it's the same thing with employees, right? Here's the other gripe. Man, this thing goes all the way down. This is the number one thing. You'll all see the meme, and we've talked about it on here before, and it says that an employee that job hops is expected to get an 80% increase a year.
Yeah.
Why the loyal employee will get a 1% increase a year.
Yep.
And that tells you that. And I've had this conversation time and time again with owners, and even my current owner of the company, because it's like, oh, hey, yeah, let's wait till the year comes. Well, let's just do $1. Let's just do $2. And all of a sudden I interview somebody and they're like, yeah, let's put them at $45 an hour. And I'm like, dude, the existing who's been here and loyal to us for a year and a half is sitting at 30.
Correct.
Right? I can't bring this new guy in, have no clue what he's going to do or what to expect from him, and we're going to pop him up here. But again, we're giving the better deal to something that we don't know nothing about, opposed to what's been existing. And again, comes right back down to customer service, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think just taking advantage of, like you said, like I was saying, money in the pocket, and not understanding the ultimate, the ultimate goal of, LTV. And yeah, I was gonna say, when you said that phone service is like, I'm switching to Mint Mobile with Ryan Reynolds because his commercials are so damn good.
That's it. Yeah, they're just funny, man.
Have you guys ever seen that?
I did.
Dude, he's got a commercial up there. I laugh my ass off every time. I see it on YouTube because I always watch a YouTube video while I'm eating lunch here in my office. And he's got a YouTube video or a YouTube ad. It's like, hey, like all these other guys are offering all these special deals. He's like, so we're just doing whatever. He says his promotion. And he's sitting in he's like, they're all paying for big fancy commercials, and he's like sitting in a green screen room. And he's like, and he goes, at the end of the commercials, people love to show their fancy deals on the screen. I'm just gonna show you a goat. And it's just like a goat. At the end of the, I'm like, dude, this ad is
and that's the best part, right? From a marketing standpoint, that's incredible.
It's so funny,
because it's outside of the box, it's outside the norm, but he's still driving the point home.
Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome. That's funny,
it's funny. You just said swapping, and I was like, it was the first one that came to my mind. I'm not even looking at switching, and that's the first one that came to my mind.
I mean, I'm looking for a new phone, and I'm kind of going through that, and I talked to my current phone company. I've been with them for like 10 years, and I'm like, hey, I want to upgrade, and they ended up, can't do nothing for you, and I'm like, okay.
Did you hear that, Tom? Tom, not to cut Jason off, but did you hear that? He's been with him for 10 years.
10 years. 10 years. Oh, that's awesome. It was funny. I was in a place yesterday, and somebody caught it. They picked up. I was like, man, where are you from? And I'm like, Kansas.
That one was good there. I didn't mean to cut off your story, but you're
good.
We really get to hear it on here.
That's awesome.
10 years.
10 years. But yeah, you know what I'm saying? They do that. And the crap part is, I mean, it trickles down. That mindset, that model carries through to almost every business that you see, and it shouldn't. So when we talk about service, the service industry, and you're dealing with your existing customers, you got to take care of them. And then even your new, people try to put their best foot forward on their new customers, but like you said, and then once you get them in the door, it's like, okay, get behind me. What else is new? Give me some more. Put it behind me. And I liken it to back in the day, I used to have a job where we worked what was called tabs. And we'd have to call through our tabs, and we had a 1, 3, 5, 7, 21, 24. And I used to talk to you guys. It's a call schedule, right?
Yeah.
And the thing was, because that model is psychologically implanted, and everybody's brainwashed with it. Everybody wants the new. Give me the new customer. Give me the new lead. Give me the new lead. I want to convert the new lead. And they don't take care of their 3, 5, 7, 14, 21, 35 tabs. And they're not calling them. So what the company does is they hold up your funnel. They'll freeze your funnel until everything is called and you have step by step taken care of everybody equally the same. And then when you're done with that, then they'll unlock it, and then you get the new leads come through a little bit at a time, and then you got to go through it again. And I think that has stuck with me in my mind when we're dealing with every situation, and that's with these customers. And I know customer service goes a lot more than taking care of existing customers, because customer service is definitely putting your best foot forward. But that should just be a model, and it should constantly carry through. So if you're in a business and you're finding out that you're one of these people that are doing this, and you're bumping existing for new, then you need to change your mindset to say, hey, my customer service needs to be the same equally through everywhere, right? Nobody's above the law.
I'm going to be honest. I think that might be the biggest takeaway from this one here. That was seriously, I know we're going to set this topic and let it run, but that honestly, that's so relevant. Tom, you were going to say something.
The situation I was telling you about before we started online, Air Around the Clock's 35-year-old company, and I'm talking to this lady about, she was frustrated because she was guaranteed, she was told that someone would be at her house between 9 and 11, and they end up showing up at 6. She told me she's been with Air Around the Clock for 20 some years. She's on her second system with Air Around the Clock.
Yeah.
And that she's got 2 properties. One is a rental place, one's her home. She's got maintenance agreements on that. She's involved. She's a good customer.
That's it.
Yeah.
This one incident, this one situation, because she didn't feel like she was handling properly, could kill that customer that we've had for 20 some years. And he's
Correct.
got 2 properties, 2 maintenance agreements, bought 2 systems. I mean, that's how critical the whole everything is so intertwined to customer service that it's just a shame. And
Yeah.
as you know, Colton, getting new customers is not cheap and not easy.
No, fuck no,
And
it's not.
even the ones that you got, to the point, Jason, of these maintenance agreements, like, oh, we'll get to Susie next week. She's on an annual, but it's so important that you do what you say. 100%.
I couldn't agree more. I think that's relevant in every space, but definitely mine. And I definitely went through that learning curve too, especially when I had less team, where I was wearing more hats, and it's like your sale, the next sale always becomes more important than the one that was just sold. Right. Especially in this game. I mean, that's why people hate marketing firms so much. Like, oh, am I ever going to hear from you again after I pay you? Right. It's like, it's terrible. Right. It really is. And the worst part of it is it's such a, like, not now when you're at the level that we're at, but it's like when you're like, when you have 2-3 people helping you, right? It's such low overhead that like they can still do the burn and churn thing and like be profitable.
Exactly.
Right? And so then they have no need to take care of back end customers, besides the fact that they've got to deal with disputes or whatever else they've got to deal with, right? Which that's no way to do it anyway. But it becomes a totally different game when you actually keep the customers that come in.
I mean,
it's
that's,
like
that's your foundation. Right?
It's way easier to keep the customer that is already with you and trusts you, and people are like, oh, that's my revenue is dead there, right? So they're just paying me. They paid me the one time, or they're obviously with us we're monthly recurring, right? Where it's like, okay, yes, they are like stuck on whatever plan, but like we have upsells we can do if we really wanted to, right? And if it benefits them and whatever else, and
or the people that they run into, to Tom's point, and the people they market to. You know what I'm saying? That's the dollar amount through word of mouth is priceless.
Correct.
And that's it comes down to that white glove service.
Yeah, I agree. We're working.
I have a contractor that I'm talking to that has a very sizable company, several years in business, has a very pretty healthy ad spend on marketing, but tells me because his team, that not all of his team between his inside salespeople that are talking to people on the phone and his technicians, they piss people off along the way. So he says that he has to do all this marketing just out of the stay level to where he was at, because they're falling off on the back end. I was like, it seems like a fairly easy fix. Just do the right thing and take care of the customer. And he's like, it's easy done when you got the size of company that we got.
Yeah, we call that a hole that you need to plug.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's it's an interesting game.
Yeah, it's tough, man. I mean, you got to be able to navigate the waters with bringing new customers in. But I think the biggest part of it, once it hits you and you start to really understand, is everybody works so hard to get new customers in the door. It makes no sense to not continue to work that hard to keep them. Because who wants to? At some point, can it go on autopilot? Yes. Set the systems and the processes in place. Provide that your way, your core values should absolutely be the same all the way through. And then you're not sitting there bouncing your head off the desk on shoulder season because your existing carries you through.
Yes. Yeah. 100%.
And that's and a lot of companies, that's it. I mean, especially for you, Colin, this is probably the story you hear every single day. Yeah. And you're probably looking at them, and because I mean, I can attest to it. I got with you a few years back with one of the clients I had, and that's how you and I got introduced. And the first thing he said to me was, give me an existing list. And we gave you the existing list, and boom, 180K comes out of that in 1 month. And I'm like, oh, shit, I looked like a rock star because I found you online. But it's something that I should have figured out. I should have known that honestly, it's buried treasure. It's a gold mine when you get to your existing customers and you start to really work with them, communicate them. Now, I'm a big proponent, like doing special things, right? Get some stuff going for them. Make them. I was literally just talking to our team the other day. And I said, guys, let's start sending some merch to like our existing customers. Nobody does that. Send them a t-shirt. Who cares
Yeah.
if it's the right size? They just want to
Yeah.
know, holy crap, this service company literally just sent me this in the mail. That's super cool.
Correct.
And they're not asking from me every single time. The worst thing to do is constantly send your technician to their house on a $59 tune-up or a free tune-up and try to get them to upsell every time they're there. How about you go to that tune-up and you say, and you give something to the customer. Don't ask them nothing. Don't try to sell them something. Give something to the customer. And at that point in time, is it going to be something that's instant gratification? I think absolutely, because that now, would it be right there and there? No, because you're not cashing that check. But do I think it's something where they could spread that around and tell a lot of people?
Yeah, for sure.
I do for sure. So
I agree. Yeah, I agree. We're working with a couple companies now in the HVAC and the insulation industry, and one of them is a very large PE firm in the HVAC space. Really like the biggest one by far that we've worked with, and incredibly excited to they're new, they're brand new.
Oh, nice.
But it's cool. So to your point earlier, Tom, when you mentioned, so we actually changed our process a little bit. We no longer train CSRs. We no longer partner with call centers. We built our own. So that's been sick. Oh, dude, I'm kicking myself in the teeth for not doing it way earlier. Don't get me wrong. It took 2.5 months to build out, but anyway, point is like that's the word of mouth thing, right? Or just like the confidence thing after working with you and having a good experience, right? We have this group, this PE group that we're working with on the HVAC side. We also have this very quickly growing franchise on the installation side that we're wrapped in with, and like who knows what comes of that, right? But if you're not upholding the back end the way that you should be, right, nothing comes from it at all.
That's it.
And at this level that we're talking, I mean, we're talking quite literally hundreds of thousands of dollars a month. Right. So it's like, yeah, what are you sacrificing by not doing the little things?
A lot. And here's the thing. The skill is already there because you did it to get them in the door. So you already know how to do it. There's no excuse. It's pure laziness after that. And that's what I tell my team all the time. Because when I hear things like that, it gets a fire under me. And I get brutally honest. It must be the Northeast in me. I start to tell them it's lazy. Yeah. Like there's no excuse. We got them in the door. Everybody's busting their ass. And then you're going to burn this one customer. It's not just one customer, right?
Correct.
That's somebody that's been with for a long time that could tell 100 people. And that's how you got to explain to them, like, this has a massive ripple effect. And if you don't explain it and have that seriousness behind it when you're talking to your team and your staff, they're not going to get it. They are going to think it's just one customer, and who cares, right? Because you got to understand, they sometimes think your company's bigger than what it is. They think you can burn. Man, you lost $6,000. That ain't a problem. Oh, you can lose another 1,000. Don't worry about it, right? I mean, how many times do you hear that?
That's
right?
so true. Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, you're not telling them that, hey, your P&L was negative $65,000 for the month, and you don't know how you're going to make payroll. And a lot of companies are in that situation.
For sure, man. For sure.
That shit adds up. So that one customer could have made a difference if they ended up telling a bunch of people, and you're looking at lifetime revenue on people. Don't be lazy.
I agree. I can attest that too. Like the intensity side when like the customer's lost, but like if it in my world it's an account manager, right? And it's like, oh, we lost so and so customer, and it's like and there's always churn in the marketing space. It just happens. It just always does. Everybody's sold something fancy and new, and they'll be back in 4 months, right? So I'm usually not too incredibly concerned about it. But my point is this: it's like sometimes it's not taken as seriously as it should be. It's like what the hell are you thinking here, right? Like, it's like, oh, well, it's just one. Okay, well, suddenly it's just 10.
Yeah, that's it, right?
And do the math at $3,000 a month, right?
That's it.
You know, if they're a big partner and we're taking percentage of ad spend past a certain point, it's like, you're talking. Like, I did the math with a guy. This is just a very easy like breakdown, but I was talking to a gentleman yesterday. Or it was earlier this week. I don't think it was yesterday, but he was looking at partnering with us, and he ended up getting a hold of me. And we have 3 options for people to partner with us. We have like a monthly, we have a 3-month, and we have a 6-month. Not contracts; they're just options for them to pay. Anyways, my point is he's like, I'm like, well, yeah. I'm like, I'd love you. Like, I'm fine with you going with just the regular monthly program. And he's like, well, he goes, well, why? And he's like, I'm like, well, we don't tie you in. I'm like, if you're gonna leave, it's not a piece of paper that's gonna keep you, right?
Yeah.
We have to do the right thing. But I'm like, look at this at scale. So I literally broke it down for him. So I'm like, I don't care to work with you for just a month, 2 months, whatever. I'm like, that's gonna cost me money to do that. But I'm like, let's say you go with the monthly. Let's say it's $500 difference than our 6-month program or whatever. I'm like, take 500 bucks, take it times 40 partners, and then take it times 12 months. You're quite literally talking hundreds of thousands of dollars,
Yeah.
right? Just the, anyway, so it was just kind of like, it's not as small as you think it is, losing,
No.
one client or one customer or one maintenance agreement or,
Absolutely.
you know.
Absolutely. Because and people who do cost per customer acquisition, right? And most companies should know what that is
Yeah.
in the service space. So you know what the cost of a customer is. But now times that times, like you were just saying, depending on how like your average lifespan is with a customer.
Yep.
And now you're looking at your average revenue per customer
Yeah.
and over the year. And then you times that up again, you're back to hundreds of thousands of dollars with these customers. So when you talk to your team, you got to be fully transparent with them and let them know.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, your white glove service is your white glove service through everything from start
Correct.
to finish with everybody. It's equal opportunity across the board for all customers, and we don't treat nobody different. The ones who are though been with you the longest should not take back of the bus, and that's
Correct.
one of our core values that we teach in our company. And I still catch people doing it.
Correct.
And then on the third part of that is to be fully transparent with your team and your staff. I
Yeah.
talk with the core team all the time, even down to my technicians. I'll talk numbers with them as far as where the company is at.
Correct.
Now, if we're making millions of dollars and we're buying helicopters and boats, I'm going to have that conversation with them.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to be doing that, and a lot of companies aren't going to work for somebody who's hoarding all those funds
Correct.
to do something like that anyway. So, I mean, I have never been with a company that has honestly been in that position. I've seen one that bought a private jet and a helicopter. But at the end of the day, if you can speak to them and be fully transparent, like, hey, this is how important these customers are, because a lot of them are looking to try to start their own businesses one day anyways. Trust me, you talk to them about stuff like this, it scares them to stay with you.
Correct. Yeah.
Not leaving after that. They're like, what, forget all that jazz. So those are the main, I think the main top 3 steps. Stick to it. You know how to do it. You got the skill. You got them in the door. Don't be lazy to lose them. And it's crucial, right? And liken it to almost like your marriage.
Yeah,
a lot of people
100%.
do the same thing. They get with the girl. They did everything they could to get the girl, right?
Yeah.
And then they stop doing all the nice kind things.
Yeah, they stop dating. Yeah. Don't ever stop dating your customers.
That's it. That should be the name of this.
That's the line right there.
That's
baby.
it. I mean, that's it. Always date the customer.
That's sick. We might have to trademark that son of a bitch.
And that's what I'm saying. Date the customer, not marry them.
Now that I think about that, maybe if we push that out at scale, it might come off a little wrong.
Right. Yeah, people like, man, you all getting real close.
That's freaking hilarious. Sick.
But that's the key, right? In hindsight, you got to, it's true because everybody does understand that feature of it.
Yeah,
because everybody does go through that, and it's back to brainwash, psychological. You get too used to it, too comfortable, and you start to forget to do those nice, kind things,
little things
all the time.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, 100% agree. Cool. Well, we'll wrap this up, boys. I know we're getting tight on time. Tom, you got anything additional here to pop in? I know you don't have a sign. Just imagine your sign is there.
People by payment.
There it is. There it is.
All right, guys. Episode 30. Look at us. We'll see you in the next one. Like I said, next week we should have a special guest. I'll shoot you guys some info beforehand.
Beautiful.
And let's rock. On the next
Beautiful.
one. See you. Peace.
See ya.
Peace, love, and unity.
Peace. Date the customer.